Breaking news coming out of Denver. Von Miller has been traded to the LA Rams. It's a tough day for Broncos fans. I'm going to give you my full reaction, the details surrounding the trade, and what to expect going forward. But first, if it comes from Schefter, you know it's true. Adam Schefter said this: blockbuster. Broncos are finalizing a trade to send 8-time Pro Bowl linebacker Von Miller to the Los Angeles Rams in exchange for 2 second-day 2022 draft picks, league sources tell ESPN. Miller is now saying his goodbyes to his friends in the Broncos training facility. Von Miller is a Bronco for life. There's no doubt about that. He will be added to the Ring of Fire. He'll have his bust. He'll have his own street outside of Mile High. But we do have the exact trade details now. So the Broncos, they receive a 2022 second-round pick, a 2022 third-round pick, and the Rams receive Von Miller. We're going to stay on this for a moment because there's some extra caveats to this. One, the Broncos are picking up the tab on the rest of pretty much all of Von Miller's contract for this season, which allows the Broncos to receive a second and a third-round pick. What that means in English is the Broncos are pretty much going to pay for the rest of his contract as he plays in LA for another team in exchange for good draft capital. If the Rams had to pay for the rest of his contract, they would not be sending a second and a third. Most likely it'd be a third and a fourth. And the Broncos, they have one of the highest cap spaces available this season, so they can unfortunately eat it and stomach it in exchange for better draft picks. So that's what that means on that front. A second round pick. Broncos fans, you are rooting against whatever team is playing LA now from here on out. You want that second-round pick to be as low as possible, along with the third, but it's those first 2 rounds that people really keep a close eye on. So remember this: when the Rams, because I think they will be in the playoffs this year, early exit, good for Denver, better draft pick, plain and simple. With that being said, what is your one-word reaction to the Von Miller trade? There's a whole bunch of different directions you can go. I'll give you mine in just a moment. Sad, frustrated, upset, bittersweet. I could even understand happy because Von is going to be traded to a contending playoff team. So for, a little bittersweet of happy for him to go to a team that has a real shot of winning a Super Bowl this year, because that's not the Broncos right now. For me, it's predictable. I saw this coming the moment he didn't play on Week 8 against Washington. All of his language going into the week was that he was ready to play and that the ankle wasn't an issue. And that was confirmed on the MRI after Thursday night. He had 10 days, and then all out of nowhere, he doesn't play. I saw a trade coming 1,000 miles away. Didn't know where it would be, but why not the Rams, the team that loves trading every single draft pick away for proven experience, and that's what you have in Von Miller this season. Overall, he got off to a great start, got off to a quick sack count, has kind of plateaued lately, but it doesn't help when you lose Bradley Chubb. You lose a lot of that pressure due to injuries, and offensive lines can just hone in on that player and try to eliminate a 30-plus-year-old veteran guy who's coming off an ankle injury a season ago, and that's what you have here in Von Miller. So while the Rams are going to be ecstatic to get another veteran pass rusher, who, by the way, is going to team up with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and have a great shot to put this LA team back in the Super Bowl. And not against the Panthers, of course. They're not going anywhere. That's an NFC team regardless. But it's tough for Broncos fans. You look at what he's done so far in his career, and he's Mr. Bronco in more ways than one. 110 and a half sacks in his career, 26 forced fumbles, 225 QB hits. He has never missed a start. If Von's playing, Von is starting, and that's not that is not a surprise right there. But with that being said, when Broncos breaking news happens, we have you covered right here at the Broncos Breakdown. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe right now if you have not already. Join our family. We're north of 4,000 subscribers. Help us get to 5, one milestone at a time. It's a tough day for Broncos fans, but this, unfortunately, is a pill you have to take. You have to be in the know. Don't be the guy who had no idea Von went for a second and a third. That's what we have you here. That's why we have you covered here at the Broncos Breakdown. Once again, Von Miller traded to the Rams for that second-round pick and that third-round pick. My first also reaction was, Fangio, I feel bad if he has any plates in his house that are very valuable, because those are broken. Von Miller is the life and the blood and everything above for this Broncos defense that has just been plagued with injuries so far. Fangio, who is coaching for his job, is starting a bunch of guys that he did not expect to start midway through the season. Okay, you got a pair of Ohio State Buckeyes there that were fun in the preseason, but you didn't expect it to be starting material. A 7th-round pick on the board. You traded for Kenny Young, who has a little familiarity with his Vic Fangio days, back to Brandon Staley, who, I mean, you can follow this web of Fangio, Staley together in Chicago, then Brandon Staley goes to the Rams, then he goes to the Chargers, and Kenny Young was on the Rams when Staley was there. It's a long web, but regardless, this linebacker depth chart right now is just not a fun name. It's not a fun list of names, and that is out of the Broncos' control. Injuries happen, but that's what it looks like at the moment. It's going to be a work in progress all season long. People are going to rise and fall on that depth chart. I don't think just due to injuries, but who's got the hot hand? Who is playing well for the Broncos? Having said that, this is a tough day, like I said. So go ahead in the comments section and thank Von. I mean, spam your favorite moments of Von Miller, his favorite plays, just the great impacts and plays and memories Von Miller has given Broncos fans for a decade plus. So go ahead right now, spam the comment section, thanking Von Miller for being an all-time Bronco. Moving on, GM George Paton, he has been busy. He's made a couple trades already in his first season in Denver. Remember Trinity Benson back in the preseason? What a fun story that was. So I've got the 5 most recent trades under GM George, and here's what the Broncos have received: a 2022 5th and 7th from the Lions. Jonas Griffith, a special teamer for the Broncos from San Francisco, along with the 7th. Then you've got Weatherly, who I think is going to be an impactful player, especially now without Von Miller there, and a 7th-round pick. Young is acquired from the LA Rams, and I think Young is going to be a fun player for this Broncos team. And then, of course, you have the big trade, right? You have Von Miller going for a 2022, a 2nd, and a 3rd. So what I'm looking at right now and what you're looking at on your screen is all that draft capital coming in. Look at just 2022, a 5th. 2 7ths, a 7th in 2023, a 7th in 2024. Sure, that's kind of chump change, but you also have a 2nd and a 3rd, and you add in all the picks the Broncos have on their own, and then you add on top of this, what are they going to get in compensatory picks if Melvin Gordon goes elsewhere, if Tim Patrick goes elsewhere and they get bigger contracts? George Paton is playing for the future right now, and he has a ton of draft capital. And those 2 second-round picks and 2 third-round picks right off the bat is going to help a lot for the rebuilding of this franchise. And that's simply the direction it is going. What I want from you guys to do right now is go ahead and grade the Von Miller trade. A, B, C, D, F. All the options on the table. You could go, honestly, you couldn't be wrong with either letter you pick. It's tough to lose Von Miller, the guy, for the Broncos, but you can also look at it on another end of the spectrum. You got a 2nd-round pick and a 3rd-round pick for a guy that probably wasn't going to come back next season. Last year of his contract, you get something out of him. 4.5 sacks thus far this season. You just got to be happy with the production and everything he has given you over his career. Look at the background of this next stat right here. You remember that moment? I think we all remember that moment. The big sack, the Super Bowl clinching sack, Cam Newton afraid of the football, acting like it had cooties, a hot potato on it. So for Von, you're happy to see him move on to a playoff contending team, but it does make you wonder. Maybe some other trade candidates, maybe some more draft capital coming in. Melvin Gordon, I don't know if his value went up or down after a 2-touchdown performance against Washington in Week 8, but also what could have been the most costly fumble in Broncos history, along with Kyle Fuller, who got some more playing time in Week 8 against Washington, but his value has never been worse. You'd be happy to get a 5th or a 6th for him, if not a 7th. And finally, Tim Patrick, who I think was very underrated in Week 8. I was going to talk about him more on the show today if we didn't have this breaking news, but also in the last year of his contract, if you're doing a whole fire sale, these are 3 names that jumped out to me that at least A, make a little bit of sense, and B, you can get something for them. Fuller is a name that you won't get much for him, but it makes the most sense. And Gordon and Patrick are 2 players in the last year of their contract. If there are teams out there making a push for him, those are names that people will be calling for, and it makes sense because they're a bit of expendable points of the depth chart right there. Javonte Williams, he's going to be taking over next year and for seasons to come. And Tim Patrick, I like Patrick. I think he should be a Bronco for years to come. But you do have Cortland Sutton. You do have Jerry Jeudy. If you think you can part ways with Patrick and pick up more draft capital, I can see it making some sense in my opinion. Other quick thoughts about this trade right now. Let's talk about not just Fangio, who is coaching for his job, and that's kind of no shit Sherlock, but also this does not help him whatsoever. But GM George Paton, I mean, he is making some moves early in his career right now with Denver, and I don't know what he's got in mind because I'm sure he's already looked at the draft coming up. He wouldn't be making all these moves if he didn't see a bunch of names he likes. But clearly, he sees something out there. I don't know if it's a quarterback who he thinks he can get in the second round, and then you add a quick offensive guard or a tackle and give that new quarterback a weapon, maybe Matt Corral from Ole Miss. We're way too early to be talking about the next quarterback for the Broncos, but I'll tell you this, it's none of the quarterbacks on the Broncos roster. I don't think it's going to be Bridgewater, and I don't think it's going to be Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock is just out of here after this year, whether it's a trade or release. I don't see him wanting to stick around and be a backup after a second-round pick in his third season. So it's going to be a very fun offseason for the Broncos. Or if they trade for Aaron Rodgers or maybe even Russell Wilson. I did a video on that last week. Now you got a bunch of draft capital and immediate impact guys in the first, second, and third round who can help quickly turn things around and go from not just a contending team, but a playoff contending team. Broncos fans, if you have not already, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. That way I can get you guys in the know all season long. Yesterday when Vaughn was ruled inactive, my gut reaction was, well, we got a trade coming because you wouldn't make him inactive if he was not being traded. So to me, the Rams and the Broncos had a trade in place, and basically they told the Broncos, don't play him on Sunday because if he gets hurt or anything, we're not making this deal. So the Broncos shut him down with an ankle injury, which was never really an ankle injury, and now, well, Vaughn's in LA in Southern California. So make sure you go ahead and subscribe right now. Follow me on Twitter. Do all that good stuff. But Von Miller is a Ram.